Hello, gorgeous. Welcome to HG Radio, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration. Here is your co-founder and host, Kim Becker.
Hello, gorgeous, and thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and this is Hello, Gorgeous, everything beauty, cancer, and inspiration on Society Bites Radio, social interaction for the mind and soul. This episode is brought to you by Amplified Marketing Group. They specialize in affordable mobile solutions that will get you noticed and help you retain customers. Check them out at yourphoneguy.com. Our guest today is Donita Wheeler, also known as MAMABEAR Donita. Donita is a survivor of many cancers, including a triple-negative breast cancer. During that brave battle, she beat the odds of 1% survival rate. Her experiences living through, between, and after cancer diagnosis has made Donita an incredible voice on survivorship, facing fear, and the many topics that cancer families face. A former first-grade teacher, Donita had the thirst for knowledge that drives her to understand all facets of survivorship, prevention, and the concept of facing fear. She shares her knowledge during a weekly podcast through her social followers. The MAMABEAR name suits Donita as she is protective of her cubs, all who are inspired by her story. The original MAMABEAR nickname comes from her deep love for her husband Whitney and her two grown sons. Donita enjoys speaking on the subject of survivorship, cancer coaching, and overall to a large audience globally. Hi, Donita, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Kim. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about all the stuff we get to talk about. But the first thing I want to let our listeners know that it's because of you that I even had this podcast. So I have to share that quick story that I was looking for a candidate in Florida when you lived in Florida, and we were coming to your town with the Hello Gorgeous program, and a friend of a friend connected us, and so I called you, and you were in the midst of caring for your mother-in-law at the time in Tennessee, and I told you a little bit about Hello Gorgeous and what we did, and you then asked me to be a guest on your podcast, and I think I reached out to you in like October or November, and it wasn't until February that I was even a guest on your show, and during that show, our producer heard me in my interview with you, and I got off the show of a very wonderful interview and an invitation to host my own podcast. And so I owe you a ton. Actually, Katie just told me today, our producer, that we've got 60 episodes. We've been on the air over almost a year and a half now, a year and 3 months, I guess. So I'm very grateful for you. So thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful podcast family, because I've had a blast with it. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And you're such a natural. How could I not? You definitely need to be on there. And Katie and Joe at Society Bites do a wonderful job. They did my first, I want to say like 100, I think I have over 100, I strangely have been doing this for a lot longer than it seems, but it was so nice to meet you and keep a relationship with you, even when I moved. And, you never know what sometimes you look for a brighter light, and sometimes it turns to be the light in front of you. So,
that's right.
That's who right. knows? It's a joy, and to see what you do with Hello Gorgeous is just amazing. What you do with those women, and I'm pretty sure it's just women, not excluding the men, but I'm not aware of that. And I think what you do is just beautiful and wonderful, and the more people that know, the more people can be touched. And you're definitely someone that walks away better after they've met you. So it has been my honor to get to know you and to share a common thread of people in cancer, just trying to add that little bit of light, because as we've seen in the last 3 months with how our world has evolved, a lot of light is necessary. So, I think it's a great thing that we met. And I always have to throw in my spirituality point of view in that, we were supposed to meet. We've probably known each other forever. And I'm so glad it came to fruition. So thank you for having me on.
I would love to have you on as a regular. You always make me feel like, well, one night last week we had a conversation and, we were on the phone, I think, for almost an hour. And, you're just one of those people. And the really cool thing is I've never met you in person, but yet I'm with you. Like, I feel like I've known you. Like, I look forward to the day where I get to just give you a huge hug and finally be able to meet you in person. But it really is like we get on the phone and it's just like we have been friends forever. Like you just pick back up and I love that. I love that. So I want to, you are an inspiration, which is why I think of you so highly in the area of cancer and serving the audiences that we each serve. So tell me share a little bit about your cancer journey.
Well, unfortunately, I've heard the words "you have cancer" about 5 times. It's funny because one of my really good friends, I had a new book come out called "Bear Myself, What Now? How to Regain Control in Your Life," and it's by me, Donita Bath Wheeler, and Bath is my maiden name. I like to put that in there because my dad was an author. My son wants to be an author, but he hates it when I say that. And my grandmother was a published author, so I feel like the cancers that I had over and over again, I had triple negative breast cancer, which was the first deadliest, like most deadliest. And then I had a simple cyst turn into cancer, and I removed partial hysterectomy, which I didn't tell many people that it was cancerous. I just said, I had a hysterectomy. It was fine, because there's a side to cancer that can be dark and gray, and I didn't want to revisit that. And then I had an ovarian cyst in my other side that turned cancerous again. So I had a full hysterectomy. And as I was recovering from that, that's when I took care of my mother-in-law who died from cancer. And then during my son's wedding, I had my second most deadly melanoma removed from my ear, which I've had a beautiful recovery from. And, it's just a lot of cancer in my life. My dad had cancer, my nephew had cancer, but it doesn't run in our family. So I feel like, how when you get hit upside the head over and over and over again, you finally have to see like, okay, there's a pattern here. I must address something. So I finally stopped putting my body at what I want to call dis-ease. And I stopped the patterns after much hard work, many, many, many crying nights, many nights of I attempted suicide. So, very deep, dark nights. But throughout all of that, I decided that my life was worth living and that I did have some reason that I have been exposed and had all these situations, and I better do the best that I can with them. So that's kind of why I wrote the book, and I have a company called Donita MAMABEAR, and I like to, it's kind of evolved into me really being a speaker, and, I go to book signings, and I like coaching kind of in the survivor realm. I'm not so strong if you're actually in cancer. I tried that at first, and it was too much for me. I wish I was stronger, but I'm not. And so I went into the survivor realm, and I seem to really have hit a little spot there. So, and I feel like too with COVID, like survivorship is really, it's really going to be a topic in the upcoming months, I feel like.
I agree. So tell me this. So this is the one thing that I've heard, and with you working with survivors on the opposite side of their diagnosis, they're on the way to a normal life, whatever that normal life looks like. But what I hear so often from women is that, like, as horrible as it was to go get the blood work and to have the oncologist check you and, your every 3-month visit or whatever that looks like, all of a sudden your numbers are good. And he says to you, I only want to see you once a year.
Right.
And the fear in their faces, oh my gosh, now what? Like, right. What happens when somebody's not taking my blood pressure all the time? What happens when I'm not getting that blood work? Like, how do you coach somebody through that? What words of advice do you give to them to calm that fear on the inside of them?
Well, it's funny because that's actually in the title of my book, Bear Myself, What Now? Because, and the Bear Myself is a much longer version of the story I just told. But it's a very tiny short book. It's like 125 pages. But how I move forward and use that is you have to use that time like, wherever you are when you realize that you want to talk to somebody about survivorship, whether it's a day out or 17 years out, you've come to that realization because there's something that's happened in your survivorship that has awoken you to something. I know that sounds very vague, but it's very individual. So I can't like just put a blanket, statement over that. But what I can tell you is that at some point in time, even people who don't talk to me wake up and say, you know what, I'm a survivor. And just that brush with death, just that, like, I have something that can kill me. It's not like, well, I shouldn't say the flu, but like, it's not like a common cold. It is something that really took you out of life. It took you out of probably, I mean, some people don't experience this, but the majority of people experience isolation, being alone completely, having to, like, I wore a mask when I was in my chemos, chemo. And then, just the realization that you've come through something on the other end, you're different. It's just like, think back through high school, whatever sport you played. If you won or you did well, you got a ribbon or whatever. And I'm saying high school because they don't give participation ribbons in high school.
Right, right.
If you win something or you come in the top 5, or that feeling of like, I did it, and you go forward and you're like, how? But probably if you're a competitor or something like that, you think back and you think, how did I do that? And so it's that same thought process that you've used your whole life. It's just channeling it into very specific needs as a survivor. And one of the biggest and hardest things to do is to eliminate the toxic people in your life. That is hard. And it requires, some guidance and some hand-holding and a backup. You kind of need a backup squad if you're going to clear out all the toxic people. And that's usually what I find, that people they've changed their mindset, and within their mindset has changed their relationships, and they don't quite know what to do because their self-esteem is taking a hit at the same time, because they may have like body parts difference or scars, or missing parts or new parts, or maybe none of that happened. Maybe they didn't have any hair. Maybe they have some strange new attachment to their body. So all of these things change your self-esteem, and in changing your self-esteem, it changes how you interact. And then throw in a little bit of steroids, throw in a little bit of chemicals, and you can really watch an explosion. So I feel like I needed somebody. This sounds so crazy, and I don't mean it to sound like the way it's going to sound, but I needed somebody like me. I needed somebody to say, get up off your sorry for yourself, get out of the house, quit watching TV 24/7. I watched so many movies in 2011. It's crazy. But, just that kind of thought process, because just like, surviving cancer is no different than surviving a job loss or surviving a parental loss or sympathy of some sort. These things change your life, and I still, my inner child holds on to the naivety of wanting to never evolve and just stay in your cocoon and be very safe there. But, what I've noticed is that these lessons keep coming, whether you address them or not. So.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I think, what you hit on, it really is, it's self-talk a lot of times too. It's what you say to yourself. It's how you say things to yourself. So I know after Michael died, I had explored and I found this website. It was called One Fit Widow. And down at the bottom of it, it said, you are still here for a reason. And I actually took a huge Post-it note, a very large one, and I wrote that on the Post-it note and reminded myself every day that if my time was up, then God would have taken me and not Michael instead, that I was still here. I had a job to do. I was still here for a reason. So like when you talk about like some of your dark days, what is it that you had to tell yourself on those dark days to keep going?
I think it was just more of it wasn't like a whole day conversation. Well, it was a whole day conversation broken into tiny pieces. So it may have been like, okay, this show is going to be over in 5 minutes. You have to get off the couch and go do some sort of something. You have to go outside. And I work on a reward system.